Welcome to The Kingdom, a podcast dedicated to CCBC Essex Athletics, in a land defended by Sir Ross's Knights. Now here's your host, Rocco Jeppy.
Hello, Knights Nation. Rocco Jeppy here on The Kingdom podcast for episode number 9. Number nine. For you really big Beatles enthusiasts out there, that'll make sense to you. And if that doesn't make sense to you, well, you're probably from a generation that Googles, so go Google it. I'm Rocco Jeppy again here for the Kingdom Podcast, and I'm running solo today. My co-host Aaron Thomas is feeling a little bit under the weather, and we appreciate him staying away and keeping his germs at home. But that doesn't mean the show stops. We do continue recording here, episode being recorded Tuesday, October 1st, and we come to you with good news out of the Kingdom. This week's fall sports recap. We're going to start things off with our volleyball team. Last week we hosted the 4th annual Knights Volleyball Tournament here Saturday and Sunday, September 28th and 29th, attended by Christendom Community College of Beaver County, Harcum, and Harford Community College. And a fun two days filled with a lot of action, a lot of very talented volleyball student athletes. And that one went into the final as the Fighting Owls from Harford took on the Bears of Harcum in the final. And it was Harford Community that took that one and went a perfect 4-0 in the tournament to capture the championship and upending the defending champions, the Harcum Bears. And we appreciate all of the participants, again, Christendom, Beaver, Harcum, and Harford at the 4th annual Knights Volleyball Tournament. For your volleyball team, their next game is today, Tuesday, October 1st, at Cecil. That'll get going tonight at 6 p.m. Moving along, we're going to start with men's soccer, and the men's soccer team, over its last 7 games, going pretty well this season up to this point. Overall, they are 10-3, 6-1 in the Maryland JUCO Conference, and 5-0 in the Region 20 Division 1. Both of the last two, Maryland JUCO and Region Division 1, they are second place behind Frederick. Now, that's just really because they haven't met yet. Frederick is 8-0 in the conference, 6-0 in the division, and those two teams will meet up in 2 more weeks, October 15th, here at CCBC Essex. The Knights, 6-1 over their last 7 games. That one loss coming over the weekend during the Knights' New York trip as the men and women went to upstate New York, where they took on Monroe Community College and Genesee Community College on Saturday and Sunday. For the men, on that first day, the Knights defeated the Tribunes of Monroe 3-1 on Saturday, and that game really action-packed, and we're going to get a little bit deeper into it here in just a minute. Then the Knights' 6-game winning streak was snapped the very next day as they lost to Genesee 3-1. Since our last podcast, the Knights played 4 games in 6 days. It's a lot to ask of a team, but they handled their business going 3-1 with wins over Howard, Potomac State, and Monroe, as we just mentioned. On the 24th of September at Howard, the Knights took care of the Dragons 3-0. It was a 2-0 game at the half on 2 Dago Adachi goals in the 8th and 10th minutes of play. Isaiah Price sealed it with a goal in the 75th minute, and Knights goalie Jack Roby 4 saves in that game. 2 days later, the Knights would host Potomac State, and a game that probably should have had a lot more scoring, but the Knights did come out on top 4-0. They were up 1-0 at the half on a Renya Soy goal in the 15th minute. And Isaiah Price came out in the second half. He scored a goal in the 54th minute of play. Kota Tuchizawa and Rizan Amedi in the 68th and 76th minutes, respectively. Roby not tested very much in this game. He only had to make 1 save on the lone shot on goal from the Catamounts. This game was the first meeting of these two teams in more than 6 years. So the Knights take that one, and it's a regional game that they were able to take nonetheless. On the 28th and 29th, as we mentioned, the Knights were up in New York and taking on the Tribunes. That game was actually tied at halftime. The Knights goal came from Sam Aduna, 30-minute mark, and that was actually an equalizer. The Knights trailed in this game early on. Coming out in the second half, Seth Onalaja would score what would be the game-winning goal in the 64th minute, and sophomore Akomi Rios put the nail in the coffin in the 87th minute with another goal. The Knights winning this one 3-1 and scoring, I say just 3 goals, but I say that because they put 20 shots on goal. They outshot the Tribunes 2-1 as they finished with 20 shots on goal. And the Knights goalkeeper, who we're going to get into a little bit more detail later, Roby, more than doing his part, 9 saves on the day, sending away 90% of the shots on goal from the Tribunes. Unfortunately, the next day, on Saturday, September 29th, the Knights would see their most recent winning streak snapped at 6 as they fell to Genesee 3-1. They trailed at 2-1 at halftime on an 8th and 29th minute goals from Genesee, and the lone goal for the Knights came in the 44th minute right before the break off the foot of Will Tenay. The Genesee team would score again in the 70th minute to seal that win and outshot the Knights, a rare moment on this season when the Knights have been outshot, 17-6 shots on goal for that one. And Roby, he picked up a new career high. Previously, the first game of the season against Eastern Florida, he had 13 saves. In this one against Genesee, 14 saves in the match. Talking about this Knights team, and we mentioned we're going to get to Roby here in just a second, but one of the good things that's come out of these last 7 games, at least in my opinion, is it looks like the Knights are starting to spread the ball around a lot more. Now, you can say what you will about where that ball is going and how they're getting it there, but in the last 7 games, different student athletes are getting their feet on the ball. The Knights have outscored their opponents 37-4 in those last 7 games. And on those 37 goals, the Knights have used 10 different goal scorers, which is definitely something you want to see as we get closer and closer to the postseason play. And when you have, anywhere from 7 to 10 different guys that can score the ball at any given moment, yeah, it's a good problem to have. I want to talk a little bit about the Knights freshman keeper, Roby here. In my opinion, playing out of his mind right now. On the season in 13 games, 1.33 goals against average, 62 total saves, and a 79.5 save percentage on the year. But in the last 7, he has played even better. 0.57 goals a game, averaging just over a half a goal a game. 32 of his 62 saves have come over the last 7 matches, and during this 7-game streak, he has saved 86.5% of the shots. All of those stats in the conference, he's sitting 4th, and in the Region 20 Division 1, he is sitting 3rd. So the freshman just playing absolutely great, and probably going to be the reason that the Knights continue their success here throughout the rest of the season. The Knights' next game is actually going to be today, Tuesday, October 1st, and they're going to travel across the county to renew an intracampus rivalry with CCBC Catonsville. That game is scheduled to go off at 6:30 p.m. tonight. If you want more information on that or to watch it live, our siblings will have the broadcast tonight on youtube.com/CCBC Catonsville Cardinals. That's all the information we have right now because it is time to take a break. We're going to step aside to get some information from one of our biggest sponsors. Let's call him our biggest sponsor from CCBC MD. You're listening to the Kingdom Podcast. I'm Rocco Jeppy flying solo today. Aaron Thomas out sick. We'll be back after this word from CCBC.
Let's talk about college.
Times have changed.
We've changed.
I refuse to accept an education that comes with a mountain of crippling debt.
I will not confuse a fancy name with a quality education.
Let's talk practical.
Let's talk flexible.
Let's talk smart education.
For all the practical thinkers, the achievers, the can't wait to get started types out there, your community college is waiting. Rethink what's possible with CCBC. Visit us online at ccbcmd.edu and see what you can be.
Let's talk about college. Times have changed, and I say no to an education at the cost of crippling debt. Because paying off student loans for the next 30 years is not in my financial plans.
Rethink what's possible with CCBC. Visit us online and see what you can be.
Knights Nation, welcome back, and again, thank you for those words from CCBC, and just like the ad says, make sure you check it out, ccbcmd.edu. So right now we are going to get our final fall update of this podcast anyway, and that is from our women's soccer team. The women's soccer team, their winning streak has reached 12 games as they just finished probably and arguably the most impressive week of the season, definitely, I think, of the program's history most recently. But in 5 days, or in 5 days, they have played 4 games. And of those 4 games, 3 of those opponents were ranked. They played Howard on the 25th of September, who was ranked number 8 in Division III in the country. They played the Tribunes of Monroe Community College, who was ranked number 9 in the country, or number 8 rather, and they played Genesee, who was ranked number 9. Monroe, a Division I team, and Genesee, Division III, and they took care of business with all 3 of those teams. They started, since our last podcast, the Howard game, a game that was is becoming a pretty good rivalry within the conference and the region, and the Knights were up in that one at halftime. And this was on the road against Howard. They were up 3-0, hand it to Howard, because the Knights came out in the second half. They scored 2 goals, and I want to say, if memory serves, with about 10 minutes left, it was a 5-1 game, and Howard refusing to go away. They ended up making that one a game, scoring goals late in the game to put some pressure on the Knights. For the Knights picking up their goals, it was an own goal, actually, that got the scoring started in the 9th minute. Kara Dietrich continued her dominance on the season, picking up a goal in the 10th minute of play to put the Knights up 2-0. And then Zachirka at the 16-minute mark, who had previously assisted Kara Dietrich on her goal, scored before the half to give them a 3-0 lead. Coming out in the second half, in the 49th minute, the Howard Dragons' Madeline Nichols scored to cut it to a 2-goal lead. And then the Knights, in the 73rd and 76th minutes of play, picking up goals from Taylor West and Dietrich to take that 5-1 lead. And then it was the Dragons with the final 2 goals of the game, putting some pressure on in the 79th minute. Nichols scored her second of the game. And at the 85-56 mark, Ellen Campbell from Nichols made it a 2-goal game. But the Knights were able to hold on in that one to pick up the 5-3 victory for the Knights. In that game, Sam Tornatore in goal. She picked up another good game in that one. She had 2 saves on 5 shots on goal. Picked up her first collegiate yellow card for something later in the game, rather, and was actually out of net for about 30 seconds in that one. And it was another quality conference region win, and the first of what would be 3 ranked opponent victories in a 4-game span. So the Knights take care of business on the road with that one. They returned home the next day, Thursday, the 26th of September, and defeated Potomac State 11-0. For the Knights, the goal scorers, Taylor West finished with a hat trick, 3 goals for her. Michaela Boyle had a goal. West also had an assist. Kara Dietrich picked up 4 goals in that game. Riley Fackler, she had a goal. Jasmine Smith and Tori Santoro scoring as well. And the in between the pipes, Sam Tornatore, she started the game, no shots on goal. Later in the game, in that second half, Peyton Abruzzi stepped between the pipes, and she faced 1 shot, was able to send it away. So the Knights taking care of business against the Catamounts 11-0. Then in New York, the Knights would take on the Tribunes. This one was a 1-1 game at halftime. The Tribunes actually got out scoring first in the 4th minute of play at the 3:02 mark. and they took an early 1-0 lead, but the Knights would have none of that as just over 2 minutes later, 2 minutes and 23 seconds to be exact, Kara Dietrich picked up a goal and tied this one at 1, and that's where it stood at the half. In the second period, we went all the way, or in the second half rather, all the way to the 73rd minute of play when Natalie Marks scored for the Knights to give them a 2-1 lead. That would be the game winner. The nail in the coffin coming in the 87th minute of play off the foot of Emily Vetri, and the Knights walk away out of Monroe with a 3-1 victory. That night, the men and women's teams visited Niagara Falls, and really cool pictures from that and at the falls at nighttime and the way they light things up. So a very fitting victory celebration for them that night as they had swept Monroe, both the men and the women. Genesee was the next day, and the ladies got things started not as quickly as the day before, but they had control of this game all the way through. In the 16th minute of play, Kara Dietrich scored on a ball from Taylor West. 23rd minute, it was Michaela Boyle from Dietrich, and then the Knights scored again in the 35th minute of play. It was Zachirka this time. Moments later, it would be Genesee scoring their first goal, so it was 3-1 at the half. And in the second half, just one goal scored, but that would be really all the Knights needed was that first half, as in the 53rd minute, Michaela Boyle scored for the Knights, but Genesee kept off the board in the second half, only putting 2 shots on goal. Tornator was able to save one of them, and the Knights extended their winning streak to 12 consecutive games on this road trip. Like the men, they will face Catonsville today. That game will be at 4:30. Again, youtube.com/CCBC Catonsville Cardinals. For the women, talking about what's going on with this team, and you can say a lot of things on the offensive side of the ball when it comes to scoring. Obviously, Dietrich, who is currently sitting third in the nation with her 31 goals, has been, the biggest bright spot from the scoring. She has 5 assists as well. But then there are other contributors, Boyle, Zachirka, West, and Hales, who have all started to get things going. Taylor West, going into this last 4-game stretch, she only had 1 goal on the season, so picking up 5 goals during that time. Ashlyn Hales, who is in her first year with the team, has proved to be a great asset on the wing side for the Knights. And then Zachirka and Boyle, and what more can we say about them? Zachirka, very opportunistic and can find the players that are open. And Boyle, she has got a left foot shot and a left foot coming out of the corner that is almost like no other. And being a sophomore on this team, I think it really helps, and it helps head coach Joe Fiedler as well as they try and set the tone out there, game in and game out. So we're going to step aside here for just a moment. When we get back, we're going to finish things up on the women's soccer team. Got some really exciting news about them yesterday, and we would like to share that with you. You're listening to the Kingdom Podcast. We'll be right back after this short break.
Times have changed, and I will not stay stuck in a job because college has no time for me. I will not let a limited schedule limit me.
Rethink what's possible with CCBC. Visit us online and see what you can be.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are back on the Kingdom Podcast. I'm Rocco Jeppe, again running solo today. We wish well to Aaron Thomas, who's out sick today. Hope he's feeling better and will be back with us next week. And folks, don't forget, if you haven't already, subscribe to the Knights YouTube channel. It's youtube.com/CCBC Essex Knights. The great thing about subscribing is anytime we go live or add new videos or new podcast episodes, you can receive a notification to let you know that is happening. Again, on youtube.com/CCBC Essex Knights, or you can just keyword search CCBC Essex Knights from YouTube. And remember, follow us on social media as well. On Twitter, we are at CCBC Essex Sports. We're at the same handle on Instagram, and we will give you the social media handles for our fall sports teams here in just a second as we finish up talking about the women's soccer team, who, led by the likes of Kara Dietrich from the scoring end of things. Michaela Boyle, the sophomore, back and distributing. She leads the team with 7 assists. In the goal is Sam Tornatore. She has 29 saves on the season and a goals against average of just 1.7. All of that and taking on 3 ranked opponents in their last 4 games, and not only defeating them, but defeating them by a combined score of 12-5, has finally gotten the attention of those at the national office. And yesterday afternoon at approximately 3:15 Eastern Standard Time, the Knights found out that they had cracked the top 20 rankings for Division I women's soccer in the NJCAA, coming in at number 19. It's a very, very well-deserved honor, and an honor that they should feel very proud of, because prior to yesterday, the last Knights women's soccer team to be ranked nationally was in 1989. It's been 30 years since that moment, and it was really quite a moment yesterday. I was at the practice for women's soccer. They were in a classroom studying, talking about formations and things that they're going to do going forward. And the greatest part, I think, about this announcement is, one of the student athletes is sitting on her phone hitting the refresh button on the rankings, waiting for it to pop up. And she made the announcement. She says, "We're ranked 19. And I was waiting with my cell phone and was getting ready to take video and post it all over social media, because I thought they were just going to, explode and, be extremely happy. And they were happy, but it was like 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, and then they went right back to looking at the whiteboard and waiting to see what the coaches wanted to talk about, and the defensive schemes, the offensive schemes, and it was really kind of a cool moment, because a few moments later, head coach Joe Fiedler stopped practice, and he explained the significance, and he and I had a nice little chuckle with one another, because of the student athletes, the 3 coaches, the 3 assistant coaches, Coach Fiedler and myself, the only 2 people in that room that were even alive the last time the team was ranked were Coach Fiedler and myself, and I was 9 years old. So it was kind of funny to talk to them about that, but for them, they were quickly excited about being in the top 20 and wanted to get right back to work. And I think that speaks volumes for this team and where they've gone and where they have to go for the rest of this season. And like we said earlier, they'll take on Catonsville today at 4:30. Catch that game, youtube.com/CCBC Catonsville Cardinals. Another tough one coming up on Saturday when they go to West Windsor, New Jersey to take on Mercer County. And then it's Thursday the 10th against Union, and right back home here to finish the season, the regular season out on the 15th against Frederick. The Knights streaking into those games, looking to just capture their first regional title since 2012, and then it's on to the district round if all goes well there. So again, congratulations to women's soccer. 12-1 record, 12 consecutive wins, breaking the top 20 at number 19 this week, and we really wish you all the luck in the world, and we're going to be watching. So we're going to move on here to the final item on the agenda. We have had to switch gears as our special guest star. The problem, or the challenge, I should say, with having special guest stars that are VIPs is their schedules change like a VIP. So we will get with them later this week, and we will broadcast that interview for you all next week. Yes, we're still going to tease and not tell you who that interview is, so you'll have to tune in next week to find out. But right now, going to move on to our top 5, and unfortunately, we do not have Aaron here to get his top 5, so he might have 2 top 5s to owe us next week. But if you remember your homework assignment, top 5 female athletes in your lifetime, and we're going to get going on that as I have a total of 8, trying to limit my honorable mentions. And, at first thought, I kind of was like, oh, yeah, I can rip off 5 names. This will be simple. And I was sitting at home working this out, and I originally came up with a list of about 10 or 12, and I whittled that down to 8. And it was really tough for me to get this list to a top 5, but I like my top 5, and I think you will too. So I'll start with my honorable mentions first. I'm going to start in no particular order. Lisa Lobo, Lisa Lobo was a women's basketball player. She's now a women's basketball analyst, and she played at UConn. She was actually a part of the team that started UConn's historic run while she was there for head coach Gino Ariyama, 97 through 2000, or excuse me, 91 through 1995. Her 1995 UConn Huskies took the NCAA championship en route to a 35-0 season. She is in the Naismith Hall of Fame. She went in 2017. She was also in WNBA from 97 to 2003. Lisa Lobo on my honorable mention. My next honorable mention, this may surprise some people, but Lindsey Vonn. Lindsey Vonn, a world-class alpine skier, many national championships, world championships, and she has a couple of Olympic medals in her award case, but I thought had to have somebody from a Winter Olympics sport in there. I mean, it's a extremely daunting task when you talk about alpine skiing, downhill skiing. So I definitely had to put Lindsey Vonn in there. And my final honorable mention, as many of you might remember, as female golf was really starting to jump onto the forefront. It was happening as I was coming of age and going through high school and early years of college. But this young woman was right there at the forefront as this was happening, and that's Annika Sorenstam. Just a phenomenal golfer, really handled any challenge that came her way, and actually, if memory serves me, she was one of the first LPGA players to play on the PGA Tour, as she took an exemption to play in I believe multiple matches. But Annika Sorenstam on my honorable mention list, and that's those three: Lisa Lobo, Lindsey Vonn, and Annika Sorenstam. So moving to my top five, I'm going to go from 5 to 1. And this was a list that was, when I sat down to do it and I was whittling it down, and I had my 5, the toughest part of this for me was putting them in an order that made sense to me. So for me, I'm going to start off with number 5, and what I put on there for number 5, for me, top 5 female athletes of my lifetime, is Laila Ali. Laila Ali, female boxer. Really, I think, I don't want to say the first female boxer, but she was the first dominant female boxer, in my opinion. From 1999 to 2007, 24-0, 21 wins by knockout. At the time she retired, she held 5 titles, and really put female boxing, or even now as we see it, there's female MMA as well. So really put that sport on the map. Number 5 for me, Laila Ali. Number 4, really, again, sticking with this basketball theme, you have to talk about Sheryl Swoopes. Sheryl Swoopes technically was actually the first female to sign a WNBA contract. She was also voted the top 15 players of all time. She's in the Women's Basketball Hall of Fame, went in 2017. The year before that, went into the Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame, and really set the standard for the WNBA and what she was able to do and accomplish. She was, picked up picked up a title when she was at Texas Tech in 1993. She won 3 Olympic gold medals and is one of only 3 female basketball players to win an NCAA crown, Olympic gold, and a WNBA championship as well. So coming in at number 4 for me, Sheryl Swoopes. Number 3, this may be a bit odd for some of you, but I'm going to stick by it and I will defend it. Number 3 for me is Kerry Walsh Jennings, the beach volleyball player. Walsh just, you look at, I can't imagine she has a trophy case. She has to have like a trophy, level. Like, she lives in a 3-level home. One of those levels has her trophies and medals. 3-time Olympic gold medalist, silver medal, three-time one bronze medal, 3 gold medals at the World Games, 9 bronze, 12 silvers, and 44 gold medals at the FIVB Beach Volleyball World Tour, and the list goes on and on. I mean, she is so decorated that it's not even funny. And I think that the only person that I've seen more decorated was the person that you'll hear about for my number 1 spot. But Kerri Walsh Jennings coming in at number 3 for me of my top 5 female athletes of my lifetime. Number two for me should be no surprise if we're talking about a list of great female athletes, whether in my lifetime or any lifetime, this woman should be on there, and that is the soccer player Mia Hamm. Mia Hamm, 2-time Olympic gold medalist, 2-time World Cup champion. She was a member of the U.S. women's national team from 1987 to 2004. And oh, by the way, when she was at college at North Carolina, from 89 to 93, they won 4 NCAA national championships as well. Anywhere she goes, it seems like teams are winning championships. And at a time in this country where female sports was really trying to, break through again in history and in this country, and really glad that Mia Hamm and those around her were able to lead that charge. And I think arguably right now the women's team is much more popular than the men's team in this country, and it's something that as we continue to see the equal pay fight and things of that nature that those women are fighting for. I think it really started with the Mia Hamms of the world and her teammates, and hopefully that'll all come to fruition, and we'll get things taken care of there. But number 2 for me is Mia Hamm. So got one more left. Quick recap here. Number 5, Laila Ali. Number 4, Shel Swoops. Number 3, Kerri Walsh Jennings. And number 2, of course, Mia Hamm. For me, you look at this person, and it's all about dominance. It's all about, the way she competes. She turned pro at 14 years old. When she turned pro, I was going into my sophomore year of high school, and it's kind of like, one of those, what were you doing with your life at 15? She was playing professional tennis. I think it makes absolute sense to put her number 1, at least it does for me, and that is women's tennis player Serena Williams. She's won 23 majors, and her winning percentage in her career, 85%. Over 85%, but 85.3 I believe it was. 23 majors. She has 72 WTAs, and the singles major titles, she's won 7 Australians, 3 French Opens, 7-time Wimbledon champion, and 6 U.S. Open championships. She also has in her major repertoire 14 majors on the double side, 4 on the mixed double side. She's a 4-time Olympic gold medalist. I don't think that there's any more that you can say about Serena Williams that hasn't already been said. I mean, she's totally dominant in what she's done. And yeah, I mean, it's been a little bit different over the last couple of years, but, she's 38 years old right now. And she's been playing tennis professionally for 24 years. I mean, there are so many millions of young women that are watching her now that weren't even born when she began playing as a professional athlete. So I think she still does a great deal for the sport, a great deal for the young females coming up in that sport and coming up in sports and in this country in general. Serena Williams is my number 1. So again, number 5, Laila Ali. Number 4, Shel Swoops. Number 3, Kerri Walsh Jennings. And number 2, Mia Hamm. Number 1 on my list, Serena Williams. We're going to step aside for a short break. When we get back, we're going to sign off. But before doing so, we're going to give you this week's homework for our top 5 out of left field segment. You're listening to the Kingdom Podcast.
Times have changed, and I will not stay stuck in a job because college has no time for me. I will not let a limited schedule limit me.
Rethink what's possible with CCBC. Visit us online and see what you can be.
Let's talk about college. Times have changed, and I understand that an expensive school doesn't mean higher quality education. Sorry, Pops.
Rethink what's possible with CCBC. Visit us online and see what you can be.
And we are back after that quick break there from CCBC. So, this week's homework, out of left field topic, top 5. It's going to be the top 5 worst sports moments of your lifetime. And this could come out of, professional sports. It could come college sport. Top 5 worst sports moments of your lifetime. You want to use the hashtag the Kingdom Podcast. Let us know what your top 5 is, and if we find it and we read it on the air, we'll give you a shout out using your Twitter handle. So go on Twitter, use the hashtag the Kingdom Podcast for this week's top 5 worst sports moments of your lifetime. That's going to wrap things up for us this week. Episode number 9 is in the books. Remember to keep tabs on us using social media. We'll be at CCBC Essex Sports for the athletics department. We are also at the same handle on Instagram. And follow our fall sports teams on Twitter at Knights_W Soccer, at CCBC Essex Soccer, at CCBC Essex V-Ball, and at CCBC Essex XC. That is for our cross-country team. We hope you enjoyed this week's podcast, and we hope you come back and join us next week when we hope to have Aaron Thomas back, who again was off this week, feeling under the weather, and we appreciate him keeping his germs at home. I'm Rocco Jeppy. This week, our producer, RJ Jones, and he's on the editing as well. Really glad that we've had him this semester, so make sure to tune in again next week and subscribe to the YouTube channel so that you will be notified when we are on the air. Until next time, I'm Rocco Jeppy saying so long. Thanks for coming by and taking a listen to the Kingdom Podcast.